Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Navid Muasses, and welcome to another episode of the Lifestyle Architect Show. Today, I have a little bit of a special episode. It's not really what I normally do, but I'm really excited to welcome today's guest, and that's Jonae Williams. She's the founder of J.A. Williams Law, the artist empowerment firm, and she provides artists, entertainers, and this generation's thought leaders with ways to successfully navigate their careers and provide assistance with business, entertainment, and intellectual property matters. Her clients have written best-selling books, created award-winning blogs, been nominated for Grammys, listed in Billboard Top 100, and international acclaim. That's just a little intro, Jonae. I mean, what an intro, really. Like you, I know that Selena Sue connected us, and you are like, you work with Marie Forleo, Danielle Laporte. I mean, obviously we cannot get into all of them since it's like you're working with a client, but I would like to welcome you.
Thank you. It's so great to be here. I love your show. I think it's great. So thank you for allowing me to be in your audience.
Definitely. I mean, I was actually excited when Selena told me about you and what you were up to, and I read about you on your site, obviously, all that kind of stuff, and I was like, should I have a lawyer on? Like, I'm not, I went to law school. Some of you listening in today, you might know my story, my background, what drove me to this. But I think this is an extremely important topic. We are going to get into like how you can protect your brand and your business today. I think that's like often overlooked. A lot of people don't talk about it. I haven't seen many shows until obviously Marie did an episode with you recently as well, talked about some issues and kind of what they think about. But today I want to also cover a little bit your story, and that's what I wanted to start off with here. So why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Absolutely. I started off being a musician very, very young in my life, and I was really interested in basically going to be, I wanted to be a background vocalist, and I wanted to work with, big entertainers and things like that. I had the big dream that, all young musicians have. And I actually started to pursue that, and I was working and doing background vocals and producing tracks and writing lyrics, and had my voice on a lot of people's songs and things like that. And I was never credited or compensated for my work. And when I was too young at the time to understand what my own legal options were, but I knew that there was something inherently wrong with the fact that I hadn't been credited or compensated, and my voice was like blaring out of the radio. So I feel like that was basically like the track into what it is that I do now. And it basically led to a life in entertainment and empowerment, which was basically, I had my own event planning company for 11 years where I worked with artists and did a lot of arts events. I was a manager. I worked with various different large companies on brand and marketing and things like that. And it just led to basically a life of working to empower people on different platforms. And the reason why I chose to go to law school was because I really wanted to understand how the law helped, not hindered, other people in putting out their work. So I started off with wanting to know about artists, but then I also realized that there's so many entrepreneurs and business owners and people out there who are putting their art out on a larger scale as well, and they still do not have the legal protection, and they're getting their work stolen, and they don't really understand what they can do in order to protect it. And so in this work, it's kind of transitioned into me helping lots of different types of people, especially entrepreneurs that have these platforms where they're building a brand like what you do, building a very large brand, and then having a situation happen where, maybe they don't understand how to protect it necessarily on the legal foundational area. So it's kind of transitioned into that. And I also do business and marketing coaching as well for artists on brand and business. So
definitely. I mean, that's very inspiring. I want to know a little bit more about the personal brand side of things, how you got in touch with, like working with kind of Marie Forleo, Selena Sue, and you're working also with Danielle Laporte. How did you build your personal brand so you kind of got to that point? Because you told me in the pre-chat, you graduated in 2010, right? Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's not that many years like from now, especially as a lawyer, it takes many years of experience till you get these big clients, right? Or especially in the online entrepreneur space, they are like the biggest, like especially Marie Forleo, she's really big in this space and
Yeah,
kind of
she's
like a
amazing.
dream to work with for many women.
Yeah.
And you're
Yes.
doing that. Tell me about this.
I think that what ended up happening for me, and we talked a little bit about this offline, is that because of the fact that I had positioned myself in a particular way where I was out there helping a lot of people, and I wasn't charging people. I was just like giving out information. I was just being very, very generous to various different people. And I think that what ended up happening is that how I attracted names like, Danielle and Marie and Derek and all of these people was because they saw that in me. And I think that generally entrepreneurs of their, caliber, they're always looking for up and coming talent. They're looking for people who work hard, who really care, and who are, there to really help and to serve. And to me, this is more about helping, empowering people. It's not just, for me anyway, it's not just about making a lot of money and living in a fancy, place in Manhattan and all of those kind of things. It really is about helping people empower themselves. And I think that my messaging and everything is infused with just who I am as a person. It was like, I usually tell people like your purpose is what you just do naturally, and it's just something that you just can't help but do. And so I've always been very, very encouraging to people, and very like, I was a cheerleader. I was very much like all about empowering people, right? Yeah. So my brand was basically just who I naturally was as a person, and what it was that I wanted to put out in the world in terms of my message, which is that you can have the life that you want and the kind of business that you want, and do that on a large scale, and also have it legally protected so you don't have to worry. And so that being said, I think that just deciding that, okay, what makes me really unique than other lawyers? Like, what makes me somebody that people would want to hire or pay attention to? What is it about me that is really special and unique? And it was this piece of that I really care about empowering people. And so I took that and I created, like normally lawyers just have like their name, and it's just like, John
exactly.
Jacob LLC or whatever.
Their LinkedIn
really
profile.
Boring.
That's all they have.
Exactly. It's real boring.
Yeah.
Like,
I know
and I'm just not that kind of person anyway. Yeah. So it had to be a little bit of the breaking the rules for me. It had to be a little bit of an edge for me to even want to subscribe to it. So I said, okay, what is it about me that makes people really excited? And I actually ended up talking to one of my friends about it. And she said, you're always so encouraging. You always are interested in like empowering people. I always feel like I can take on the world when I'm around you. And you teach really well. Like, you're very, very clear. And I was like, okay. So I took all of those things and I started to just put myself out as, J. Williams Law. And then I put the Artist Empowerment Firm. And I had the Artist Empowerment Company back in 2005. That was my company that I did all my event planning underneath. So I already was using that. So it just kind of naturally became a part of my law firm. And after that, it was like things just kind of exploded because I was just doing that with everybody. It was like, and I didn't do it with the intent of wanting to really get a lot of attention. I just did it because I just wanted to help people and I wanted to get my message out. And I really, really wanted people to get empowered. So doing that, and then taking the time to build my client base by doing things like guest blogging and doing things like, networking and going out and meeting people and connecting with people on a level where they can see you face to face and they understand how important this is to you. I think all of those things combined are what really attracted people of a certain type of level. And then also my commitment to high quality service. So, that is extremely important to me. I want all my clients to feel like they have my full attention, like I am, completely invested in their company, and I want to see it be successful, and that I also have the legal knowledge and expertise to guide them in the right direction. So all of those things combined, I think, are, when once one person refers you, then they all kind of
you know this, right?
Exactly.
We talked about this. We talked about this before, like how you were just on Entrepreneur on Fire with John Lee Dumas. You're probably gonna go on. Maybe I'll refer you to some shows. That's how it is. You just all how it works. And you've done an amazing job in that as well, and positioning yourself as an expert. And I'm guessing, I don't know your price, but you're charging premium now or more on this level, right? Yeah. So this is an interesting topic. I've been talking with a lot of people lately about this kind of topic of premium positioning. So what's some steps you took, and maybe some steps other people can take before kind of you get into the legal kind of section of this interview?
Yeah, of course. I think that the first thing that is really important about premium positioning is really making sure you have a premium product. I think that all of the branding and all of the marketing in the world isn't going to help you if your product isn't good. So I think that, make sure that your product is worth a premium price. And then after that, then you have to really work, you really have to really put your brand out in a very professional way that also embodies like who you are, right? So, for example, on my website, I said, okay, I want to exude power. I want people to feel very, very inspired and want to say, okay, this woman, she knows what she's doing. She knows what she's talking about. I want them to feel that the moment that they come into my world and experience me, right? So, if you look at the colors of my website, it's black, white, and electric blue. Like there isn't, soft pastel pinks and, and soft gray. You know what I mean? Like it's not that. It's very, very much like, power, And so I think that, just making sure that all the elements of your brand are all communicating for you the same message, I think is very important. So if you go to all of my social media and you go to my website and everything is consistent. So I think that if you're going to do that and you're going to be consistent with your entire brand, I think that is something that really elevates you in the eyes of other people in terms of positioning you for premium prices, because someone who is a premium price is going to make sure that that everything is consistent and that they don't look scattered when their audience comes to them. And also I'm consistent in my marketing, so people see that and they realize that they can trust me because I'm reliable. I send out a newsletter every Friday. I talk to my audience. I'm very, very approachable online, and if people email me, we respond right away. It's very much a place of service and at a high quality level. And I think that you have to really decide who you want to be out in the world and how do you want to represent yourself, and be very, very clear about that, and then take that and communicate it through the elements of your brand that are working for you when you're not directly talking to someone.
I love that. I mean, I could probably go on and talk about this forever.
Yeah, me too.
It's so interesting. One thing, if you're listening into this, maybe you're just starting out, something to realize is that we started from nothing. We are all winging it our first time. The experts in your field, they were starting out once. They were not maybe charging premium. But as you go, you have to decide what kind of product or services do I want to provide? What content do I want to put out there? And if you provide high quality to the world, you are kind of what you publish online. And that's very true. Online, everybody can find it. And if they find that you are providing high quality stuff, then they will also perceive you as higher value. And eventually you can charge more. It's not like an overnight thing. I'm sure it wasn't for you.
No, it definitely was not. I worked really hard on making sure that my brand was consistent, and it's continued to grow. I mean, I'm working on a new site right now because, as you know, design and branding and things like that, they all kind of shift and change every couple of years. And so, you kind of have to stay on top of that as well. And so that's another thing that's really important is your site can't look like it's 5 years old when everybody else is at a different level and a different quality of design and all of that kind of stuff. Like, you really have to keep up with that stuff. So, for me, it's really important that everything in my life, because that's a core value, not only of my company, but also of my life, is quality. So I want to make sure that I have a quality, environment that I live in. I have quality friends and relationships. I have quality business. I have quality clients. And I have gotten to the point where I have started to, whittle down my client base and work with people who really can understand the value of what it is that I do, and people who really understand the importance of investing in a high quality member of their team. So, all of that kind of stuff works together, and it does take a while. I mean, before, for me, it took a couple of years before things really started to take off, and I was able to do things like go on Marie TV and whatnot. And I feel completely inspired. I actually, my law school actually named me Alumni Innovator of 2013.
Wow.
And I was floored because I didn't even know that they watched me. You know what I mean? And so it was really cool. But just, if you have your eye on that, and have your eye on, really making sure that you're a high quality person, and you have that kind of business, and you're really of a place of service, when you're like that, other people will take notice of that. And that's the reason why I've been able to attract the opportunities like this, and the people that I've been able to work with is for that reason.
Definitely. I mean, I find it interesting as well. It's all about the relationship and who you know essentially when you're getting started. But now I want to kind of transition into this legal section, which we are going to have as well in this episode. It's a little bit special, but I want to also, for the listeners, as you know, with legal advice, you might not live in the United States. And so I want to throw out a disclaimer, you should consult an accountant or a lawyer before you take any action on legal advice. It's on your own. It's not like she's not there for you. You can obviously consult with Yone if you're living in the United States, but if you are like in Sweden, it's not going to apply. But the principles we are going to talk about can be pretty much like the same you should start thinking about. And
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I'm sure you agree with that as well.
Of course. And just so everybody knows, like, this interview does not establish an attorney-client relationship between us. However, I am more than happy to give as much general information as I can that will be used in a general way, so that you can take that and say, okay, I know a little bit about the subject, and now I can take it and actually talk to an attorney based in my country or in my state, and then get the information that I need specifically for my business.
Yeah, I couldn't say it better myself. So let's get into it a little bit. Actionable tips. Yeah, so one thing I wanted to start off with is that a lot of people, they forget about this. They want to launch a business. They want to launch a personal brand, whatever that is, podcast. And like, it takes them maybe a few years. They might even register a business, but they don't think about anything in terms of the legal stuff, which is very important. So where should you start? Like, how do you protect your brand and your assets online? What's the kind of the first steps you should take?
Well, there's so many different things that you can do. Let's just start at the base, which is the law itself, using internet law, and also using intellectual property law to basically protect the certain elements of your brand that fall underneath the law. So for trademark, it's, your logo or a phrase or a word or a company name, like various different things like that fall underneath trademarks. So if you're wanting to put out, like, let's just say you wanted to trademark the lifestyle architects, that might be a possibility if you're bringing in commerce for this podcast, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that you could trademark. And then, copywriting is a different type of intellectual property because it goes for creative works. So if you're talking about your book that you're putting out, or a certain, for example, a workbook maybe that you have that accompanies your product, your service, like, these types of things are the things that you could take and you could copyright. And then, patent is a little bit different because that is related to businesses. I mean, I'm sorry, inventions.
Inventions,
so, So if you're looking at, for example, this mouse is a patent, right?
Yeah.
Or your lotion, the formula for the lotion that's in your your bottle at home. Those are things that basically carry a patent. So and that's for things that just weren't originally created in the world. You pulled together certain elements and created something that was completely new and unique. So that being said, starting there, you could use the law of intellectual property to help with certain elements of your brand. And most of the time, entrepreneurs are looking at their trademarks because, again, we're living in an informational type of system, and we're all using the internet. And so our words are the most powerful, in our phrases and our logos and the things, the visuals that people see, they're the most important pieces of our brand. So a lot of times people are using trademark to make sure that they at least have a base for their brand protection. And there's others. Do you want me to go on?
I can just stop you there real quick.
Yeah.
Because I want to, let's take an example. Let's say I have my name, navidmoases.com. And my name is quite unique, so should I trademark that? Like a lot of athletes, they do that. Like I know for sure they do because they have unique names. So is that a possibility? And where should I trademark it? Should I do it in my own country, or is it my audience, they are mostly in the States? Should I do it over there?
Okay, so that's a good question. Yes, you can trademark your name. I have lots of clients that do trademark their name, but I'm just going to speak for the United States, and then I'll say a little bit about how this works internationally. So if you have your name and you're saying, okay, I don't want anybody else to use it in my space, in the space where it is that I have my podcast and I have my services and all of those things, you could take that and you could register that name. Now, there's various different classes that you can register your name underneath. What is important to the U.S. Trademark Office is that they want to make sure that your name is being used in commerce in some type of way. They want to make sure that you're not just saying, oh, I just want to own this just because I want to own it. No, it has to actually be attached into the marketplace for a product, for a service, or in a way that commerce is coming in. So you would take that and you would say, okay, what class, meaning what area of the marketplace do I fall underneath? So for you, it would be maybe, and I'm just spitting this out at the top of my head, so I don't know the actual class numbers, but it might be something like, radio podcasts or, some type of classification like that. And you could take it and register it there. Now, let's just say you decided, okay, I'm actually going to be releasing products underneath personal development or brand, business and marketing, right? Mm-hmm. You could take your name if you release products underneath your business as your name and put stuff out in those realms. You could also register your name in those classes as well. You can register your name in whatever classes are available to you as long as you are actually using your name in commerce in those classes. So does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. Yeah, definitely.
So when you do that, you can do that, and then if you want to take it international, like let's just say you're saying, okay, I'm going to do this in the United States, and you can. There are lots of international, people that don't live in the United States that trademark within the United States. That is totally acceptable. If you said, okay, you know what, I want to trademark my name in other countries too. What they have is an option for you that's called the Madrid Protocol, where lots of different countries are all signed up underneath, a world international intellectual property organization, and you can register your name with a bunch of different countries based off of who's registered with the Madrid Protocol. You have pay fees and all of that kind of stuff, and then you can have it registered in those various countries. Every country doesn't subscribe to this. It's just like being a part of the EU. Yes. Not every country is a part of the EU, right? So it's the same kind of way. So if you wanted to do that, you could. It really just depends on where it is that you primarily operate and who you're primarily servicing, or if you plan on going really, really big. So for example, a company like Virgin, right? Virgin probably has their name trademarked in every country.
Yeah.
Probably.
Obviously, yeah.
Every country that they can.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because they have a very, very strong brand, and it is an international brand. If you are not thinking of going that large, then you might not want to register, in every country all over the place. You might just want to do it in the areas where you have the largest market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense as well. And I actually quite a few years ago, I studied a little bit of European intellectual property law. So that's a topic actually, of all the topics in law school, just a little tangent, that was probably the topic I was the most interested in. Maybe because it involved branding, stuff like that, trademarking. And I mean, that's something I'm quite interested in. So if we,
me too.
yeah, for sure. But something that's maybe holding people off, like especially like online entrepreneurs in their, like when they are starting out, is that maybe it's expensive to go to a lawyer or like hiring someone with help, because this is not always easy to figure out. Like, what's the fees for all of this? Like, how do I go and trademark my brand, my business? So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it can be really overwhelming for people to get legal counsel, but what's even more overwhelming is if somebody actually steals your intellectual property. That's more overwhelming. So I usually just tell people to step over the fear, just like you do with anything else. When you said that you wanted to decide to put your name out in the world or create a podcast or create a business or whatever it is that you wanted to do, you had to take a leap and you had to take a risk. A lawyer is a team member just like every other team member. So you're going to have to take time to interview lawyers, see which one works the best with you, which one is the most helpful, which one feels like they'd be willing to work with you, because there are some lawyers who are, at the top of the income level and that you might not be able to afford them. But it's just like any other professional, going to the most expensive doctor or the most expensive, branded marketing, company or whatever. So it really just depends. You can find affordable people within your price range. It's just a matter of searching a little bit. And once you do that, there are lots of lawyers who are starting their own law firms as well, all over the world. I just spoke to a woman who's starting her own firm in France. So I know that it's happening all over the world, especially with people creating like virtual law firms. So you're bound to find somebody that you can work with that could work with your budget. It's just a matter of taking the leap and just jumping into it and saying, okay, I'm not going to shrill from this anymore. I'm an entrepreneur. I know I need this for my business. I'm going to go make it happen.
Yeah, and you mentioned something as well with virtual law firms. I think that will become more common, especially with lawyers that like yourself, helping online entrepreneurs or more creative entrepreneurs with their kind of protecting their brands and so on. So I think that's something that a lot of people, they don't think about. A little tangent again, like going into law school, then coming out from law school, becoming like you did, like you're self-employed. Like not many. I mean, you became almost right away, right? You didn't really go into.
I did. Well, I did in a sense, but not necessarily, because I did work for an entertainment litigation firm for a little while, and then I also worked for a securities litigation firm as well. So I didn't jump full time into being an entrepreneur until just last year. I was working, very, very hard, I'll admit, because I was building my practice on the side and I was also working for another practice. Luckily, the practices did not, there was no conflict of interest because it was securities litigation. I didn't do anything that had to do with that. So, that being said, I did work in firms for a little bit. I did some court cases, depositions, and like worked with various different, large scale entertainers and clients and things like that. And just kind of with getting my feet wet and just like learning what it is that I really wanted to do. And what ended up happening for me was I got offers to be of counsel to various different law firms. And there was a something in me that was just kind of like, okay, why would I go and work for someone else and be a lawyer for them and build their business and then end up them keeping 70% of what it is that I bring in, when I could get those clients for myself and keep 100%. It just didn't make any sense to me.
Very good point. Yeah.
I was like, okay, that doesn't really make any sense. So I'm just gonna work all of my good young years that I have to build up your firm, and then at the end of the day I have nothing. So it was just, to me, it just didn't make any sense, especially because I wanted to service the clients that I wanted to serve, and I wanted to be in charge of my own destiny. So I really had to decide to take a leap of faith that I could sustain myself doing this on my own. And it was scary, but you know, I'm coming up on my year anniversary of doing it full time now, and so I'm just like, well, I didn't think.
Definitely. I mean, that's very cool that we got into this a little bit as well. But you know, you've been working with a lot of like online entrepreneurs. What's the mistakes you see when they are trying to protect their brand, especially like in like this age when it's like a lot of people that are trying to copy each other online? You know, it's hard to be authentic and stand out. You know, I find this as well. Like there's tools online you can do, but how can you really protect that? So if something serious happens, what should you do?
Well, here's the thing. There are going to be a lot of copycats that just comes with the territory. However, when there are direct copies of your material, especially like when it comes to your websites, when it comes to various different things that you have, you know, out there in terms of your marketing material, you can issue what they call a cease and desist letter, or what, you know, more commonly known as a takedown notice. That basically says, you know, this is my intellectual property, I own it, and you are required by law to remove it. Now, what I do recommend is that you have a lawyer draft that, because there's certain types of language that needs to be in a takedown notice before it can actually be compliant with the, you know, the FTC regulations and the law. You want to make sure that it's all compliant, especially with the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. You want to make sure that all your stuff, it falls in line with what they tell you that you have to do in order to issue a legally sound takedown notice. Now, when you do that, they are required by law that they have to remove it once they receive that notice. If they do not do that, then the next step would be to send it to their host, and usually the host will comply and pull down the infringing content. So it just depends. But what I recommend is that you speak to a lawyer about this, especially if you think somebody has definitely ripped you off. I had a client who this happened to, that a woman took all of her blogs practically, and posted them on her blogs, changed a few things here and there, and it was her content. And that was, you know, obviously extremely upsetting to the client. And I had to go and issue takedown notices for all of the blogs that the woman had infringed upon. She immediately removed them, and all was right with the world. But this happens, and the higher you go up and the more exposure that you get, it happens constantly. Yeah. So you just want to make sure that when that does happen, that you do have somebody that can issue those notices for you and make sure that that infringing content is removed.
Yeah, definitely. I find that important. And also, like, you can also monitor obviously your own brand a little bit online if you are starting out.
Google Alerts and stuff like
and
that.
Some other tools. There's some other tools as well. Like actually I had a guy, he's amazing with tools. He said like brand, I believe it's like brand 24 or something, and you can like type in.
Write it down.
Yeah, you should write it down because it's really powerful. You know what you can do with this tool? I mean, you should definitely check it out. And basically, you type in anything, and if you are mentioned on Facebook, this tool can sense that. You know, I don't know how, but you know, without even tagging you, you can like see and get a notification in this tool. So that's pretty cool, I think.
It's called Brand 24.
I think so. I mean, I'll send it after, and I link it up.
Send it to me. That sounds amazing. Like, I would love to find that.
I'll also link this up in the show notes over at navid.me/32. Everything we are talking about here will be linked up as well. But let's keep going a little bit. I know, I know this is like for the United States a lot, but like business structures, like I get a lot of questions, especially like in groups. I've seen that. Like, what company should I start? Should it be an LLC, like an incorporation? Like, I'm not too familiar with all the terms since here is different, but I'm sure you can tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, of course. So every state, every country, you know, everything is different, and so it really depends on where you are, what part of the world you're in. There are different structures, there's different names, things like that. What I will tell you, when it comes to the United States, there is what they call a corporation, what they call a limited liability company, and what they call a sole prop. those are the three that usually people know about the most. There are other business entities, but those are the main ones. And an LLC and a corporation, they both usually they will shield your personal assets from the debts and liabilities of your business. So having one of those is more of a protection. So if you have debts or you have someone that wants to sue you or things like that, then none of your personal assets can be attached. The caveat to that is that if you get a judge and they decide to do what they call piercing the corporate veil, and that happens, then it happens, and then they will be attaching your assets. But it really just depends on what court you're in and things like that. So with a sole prop, it's just you operating as you. There is no protection for your personal assets. There's no protection for anything. It's really just you going out, taking payments, and putting those on your taxes. So a lot of times I will tell clients that it's really important that you register an actual business entity. Choosing the business entity, though, is a little bit tricky because it depends on your personal income tax situation. So there might be a situation where, you're married or you have kids or you have a home or all these different things that could affect your personal tax situation. So going to an accountant is really important to find out which structure would work for you in terms of your personal tax situation. And what I will say is that when it comes to the corporation, which is C Corp, S Corp, and B Corp and whatnot, when it comes to that and an LLC, legally they both protect in the same way. So you want to make sure that if you know that, okay, what's my next step in terms of which one would be better a structure for me tax-wise and formation-wise, because every state, country is different in terms of how much it costs to actually file these entities. And also you want to think about the maintenance of these entities. So how much does it and how complicated is it to maintain these entities and keep your status as a business entity? You also want to think of how to pay yourself. Is it more complicated to pay yourself? Do you have to pay yourself on a payroll? Do you have to take distributions or withdrawals? These are the kinds of things that you want to talk to with your accountant, because if you're a starting entrepreneur, you're going to want to make it as easy as possible. You don't want it to be overly complicated. You're already going to have to be going out and getting clients and selling products and doing marketing. You don't want this piece to just be the wrench in your program, but you want it to be able to help you, because we all got to pay taxes. So it's just important to make sure that you not only speak with an attorney about it, but you also speak to an accountant as well. Get a combined opinion of which one you should do, and then you're informed and you can go from there.
Interesting, because I'm not going to go into this too much here, but in Sweden it's very different. So in the United States, you have like these three options kind of. I don't know if you have like this solopreneur, like you can be like, do you always have to register it in the United States?
No, when you're a sole prop, it really depends on what state you're in. So for example, I'm in New York. In New York, you do have to register as a sole prop, but you don't register with the state, you register with your county. So that's a little bit different than other states where you don't have to register if you're a sole prop at all. So it really just depends on, your state. And that's why it's really important to speak to an attorney and an accountant so that you know what are the responsibilities for formation as well. You know what I mean?
Yes, definitely. That's a big mistake a lot of people make, because they go, maybe right away, I'm going to start a business, and they go and file for an LLC just because their friend, they did that. And maybe that's not, you don't know their situation. You don't know how their life is. Maybe they also did the same mistake like as you did. And that's going to be maybe cost you, as you say, and that's go to a lawyer or like attorney. I don't know why, like lawyer or attorney. Is like a difference or the same?
No, there's no difference. It just depends on what you want to call yourself. Because I know like in the UK, I think they're called like a barrister.
Yeah, sometimes,
like that. Yeah, so it's like, it just depends on what you want to call yourself. Sometimes I say, I like attorney. It sounds more sophisticated.
Yeah, okay.
But,
true.
But, and people, when they think lawyer, a lot of times they have a lot of bad things attached to the word lawyer. So it's
Okay.
like too expensive, too complicated, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, attorney,
So,
maybe they sound, yeah, sounds better maybe as well. Okay.
yeah.
All
So
right.
I prefer that, but that's just my own
All right.
personal choice.
Okay. Let's get going here with actually, I mean, I'm working with some team members. I have like in this a branding agency. I have people like from talent platforms I'm working with, like Elance, Odesk, and all that. And so far kind of embarrassed now to speak to like an attorney because I haven't really had any like official paperwork for that. Like I've just done, because I wanted to get into that legal documents because I know that's important. I'm actually getting that with my the other designer now to set it up in a proper way so we actually know what he makes and what I make and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that it's very, very, very important to get things down on paper, because I like to call, when you're deciding that you're going to be in a partnership with someone, I like to just call it a prenup. So you want to make sure that everybody's on the same page about what their responsibilities are, what their liabilities are, who owns the intellectual property, should you decide to split. What is it that, how are you going to be paid? When are you going to be paid? Who can look at the books? Like, these are all various different things that are so important to running a business, and you want to make sure that both of you are on the same page about these things. So it is really important to reduce it down to a writing. When it comes to your team, then if you have contractors, then you might need an independent contractors agreement or a work for hire agreement or something like that to work with them. Other people who come in and out of your business, you might want to have them sign a non-disclosure agreement to make sure that they're not going to take the information that they learned and distribute it to a third party outside of your company.
Yeah.
That's very, very important. So especially when you have people who are not necessarily regular team members that you have to account for. So for example, in the United States, you can include certain clauses within the employee agreement or the independent contractors agreement. I don't know how it works in every country, but here that's what you can do. And you want to make sure that you don't have somebody that that is working for you, like let's just say it's an assistant, and they get a hold of your account numbers and information because they're helping you, and then they go take that and then start charging some things or tell their friends about it or whatever.
And then they quit. They quit and they take it out, right?
Exactly. So you just want to make sure that you really protect. I also recommend for if it is legally available and in your country, and it's something that is authorized in your country that you can do, I also recommend doing background checks on people, because the internet is one of those anonymous wild wests. Like there is a place where people can pretend and put on airs, and they can be whoever it is that they want to be. We're all separated by a computer screen. Yep. So I recommend that. And also I just think that making sure that you check references and things like that it's really, really important, because you want to make sure that your business stays healthy. Even if you start off healthy, you want to make sure that it stays healthy. And just a part of being a business owner is that initially you're going to probably have a lot of heavy turnover, and you're going to have people coming in and out of your business, new people. You might not work well with somebody, you might fire somebody, hire somebody as you continue to grow. You want to make sure that from every angle that you're legally protected, so that you can go out there and be a rock star and do what you do.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. That's great, actually. And something else here is like when we are as entrepreneurs, we might create products, and services. And should we like trademark those products as well? Maybe we have our brand name, like maybe this show Lifestyle Architects. Then I have some other products I'm creating. Should I like trademark that or protect that in some way to?
I would say that what I would tell somebody in your situation is I would ask them how committed are they to the name. Meaning, if you would be really upset if somebody actually took that name and put it on something else, then you should trademark it. if, as long as it's attached to a product or a service, then you should be able to do that when it comes to the United States and in most countries. So what I would say is, to a person in your position, I would say, if you are really committed to the name and you're like, yes, this is it, like I'm taking this name to the next level, like if you're like that, then yes, go ahead and trademark it. If it's not something that you've definitely settled on, then don't waste your money. Wait until you have something that you're like, I'm definitely building a brand around this name, this product. For example, like, with Marie Forleo and B School, right?
Did she trademark that, by the way?
Well, I can't
she
talk
doesn't
about
have
her
a TM.
Matters, but
yeah, she doesn't have a TM. I just noticed that. But maybe you don't have to. That's one thing. Do you have to have that for your brand or not?
When you register your mark, you should have the R with a circle around it to say that it's registered. You can use generally in the United States anyway. You can use the TM and it hasn't been registered officially as of yet. However, once it is registered, you definitely want to use that R with the circle on it. You cannot use the R with a circle around it if you are not registered. So it's like a little kooky rule that most people don't know. But yes, so I can't talk about any of my clients' own personal information.
I just asked this because I noticed some people, they have the TM and I thought, okay, maybe she doesn't. But one other thing is that maybe you're buying the domain. Let's say the domain is available for a name, but another person maybe they registered. Should you check that beforehand before you actually it can be a big one. Obviously, you should not maybe register something with Facebook in it because then you will get a cease and access letter. You will for sure. But but for someone smaller, like you don't really know. Like Marie Forleo, you cannot really know if she did it, but you should obviously not take her brand because you will not succeed because she already built it up. That's one thing as well.
Yeah, and then you just be a crummy person. You know, you don't want to invite that kind of energy into something that you're trying to create to go out there and do something positive and change the world and make money. Like you don't want to attach bad energy to something like that. So what I would say, if you register a domain name, a lot of time people squat on domain names, and what squatting means is basically they buy a bunch of domains and then they sell them to people who want them. For a higher price than they actually purchased for it. That is not an ethical thing. However, it's not completely illegal.
Oh, really?
It's
like a market for that, like reselling domains.
There's cyber squatting laws, right? Those are available. But again, there are people who own multiple domains, and it might be something that you are planning on releasing in the future. It's like I own domains that I haven't released.
Same here. I do as well.
But I might be doing it in the future. Now it's up to me. If somebody came to me and said, "Hey, you know what? I would like to buy that domain from you," then it's up to me to say, "Okay, am I going to sell it or not?" But what I'm just saying is that you really don't want to be one of those people that goes out and buys the domains of people that and you're just trying to sell it to them, and it's just bad energy.
It's unethical,
business.
It's not ethical. What we are doing is definitely.
Yeah, it's gross. It's just don't do that.
Definitely. What I meant more is that you go out with a domain name and you don't know how you should you do a trade, where can you check if if the brand you're trying to get out there to the world is registered. It can be even if the domain name is not taken.
Yeah, well, if you go to the USPTO, if you go to uspto.gov, you can do a trademark search. So you can actually go onto their site, and there's a place where you can search for different trademarks, and you can actually look them up. So if you are interested in registering a trademark for something, then you should go on there and check it out. Now, the one thing that you also want to pay attention to is if there's a mark in the marketplace that could be confusingly similar to your mark. What that means is that let's just say there was a Marie Forleo, since we're using her, Marie Forleo and Maria Forleo that wanted to put her stuff out in the world, right? Um, if that was the case, because if Marie had her name trademarked in that marketplace, in the brand marketing business arena, and some other Maria Forleo wanted to come in and start using her name as a way to kind of put out business marketing information, then Marie could go and, say, I have exclusive use and rights to this name. Your name is too confusingly similar to my name. Therefore, you are prohibited from registering in this market space with that name. Now, that is something that that I recommend that you go to an attorney about, and you talk to them and you get them to kind of deal with that and kind of do the research for you and make sure that that's the case. But that's very, very important, because just because a name isn't registered doesn't mean that there isn't something confusingly similar to that name, out there in the marketplace that you want to register it. So you want to just make sure that the name that you want isn't, and then also try some variations of it. Just like when you try a variation of a domain, when you're going and doing a search for a domain to register it, do that too, just to see what else is out there. And then talk to an attorney afterwards and say, hey, would this be an infringement if I were to be Maria Forleo out here and there's a Marie Forleo? And then they will let you know what it is that they think.
I think is a great example. So thanks for sharing that. And also one other thing here is about like when you're writing like your blog and the content, is that automatically it's like protected because it's like online, like you have the rights to everything? Because I know that people are putting it out on other sites. It's like a little bit hard to monitor sometimes what they are doing with it. It's like coming out on your website, some other person might copy a picture, because I know this. The reason I bring up this is because I featured Marie Forleo, Marie Forleo, in a roundup post, with lifestyle entrepreneurs, and I didn't know about this, not anything serious, but someone from her team reached out to me and said I have to remove the image. Like I have a small image because it was not her official one, so I needed to change that. So obviously a little bit stuff like that, she has a big team, so she can keep track, of stuff like that.
Well, here's the thing. If you are using images that you do not own, then yes, you need to get permission for those images. You will get slapped with a takedown notice if you haven't gotten permission. Now, if you had interviewed her and you wanted to use an official photo of her, then I would suggest that you contact her team and say, hey, I want to get an official photo of her because I interviewed her XYZ. Now, if that is not the case, meaning you didn't get authorized permission, she owns the copyright for that photo, and yes, she could issue you a takedown notice and you would have to remove it. That happens a lot in the internet marketing world, because people just go and they do a Google search. I actually wrote an entire a long legal article about this a few years ago, because someone took an image of Obama that someone had taken at an event that he was at, and actually took it and created a huge art piece from it, and didn't ask for permission to use that particular photo, and created this art piece. It blew up. It got all amazing. It was before he became president, and they were infringing. It was an infringement case. So that kind of stuff does happen when it comes to blog content, artistic content. There are internet laws to protect your content. And again, it is something that you need to do in terms of, issuing someone a takedown notice if they take and rip off your blogs, they take your images and things like that. That's the one great thing about internet laws, that is, they're really trying to make sure that the internet stays a healthier place for people to distribute their content. I won't say that it's always works, and I won't say that it's always true, but they are trying to enforce a little bit more regulation around it.
Definitely. I mean, that was really great tips, like legal tips and all that. But as we said in the beginning, a little disclaimer, you have to consult your lawyer, attorney, like everything there, to really get the right advice for your business and brand.
Very important. Yes.
But now kind of on to the last question, and we talked about this before. I wanted you to kind of tell us how designing your life is like you're having your firm now and all this. How has this affected you, like starting your own business, and how what does a normal day look like for you now?
My days have changed a little bit since, I'm in a bit of a transition because I started off my business like everyone does, completely obsessed with it. Completely, like most people, you started off, you're enthusiastic about it, you're putting something awesome out in the world, you're really, you're jazzed up, you're talking about it all the time, you're driving your friends and people crazy. That was like my first year. It was like I worked 7 days a week, and now I take time off, which is something that I didn't do before. And I also start my days a little bit later, and that allows me to have my morning to basically just kind of have freedom. So to do things in my life that I love. So for example, running or going to yoga or going and just walking in the park, doing things that really just are ways that I can just enjoy my life before I have to get started with, the various different demands that my business needs. And I think that is so important that as entrepreneurs, you take time to make yourself a priority, because if you don't, you won't be here for long, and neither will your business. It's not healthy to have a business owner that is completely stressed out, that is getting sick. In year 2012, I got sick 5 times. It was like I was getting sick like every 2 months. It was horrible, but it was because I wasn't taking any time off. I wasn't doing anything else but my business. I was neglecting the relationships in my life. I went in full throttle, and I didn't know any better, right? But when you know better, you do better. So for me, it's really just been about not even necessarily achieving balance, but just achieving more of a lifestyle flow, so that I can enjoy my business more when I'm in it and be completely focused on it when I'm in it. And when I'm in my life, I'm in my life, and I keep business and my life separate now. So, and that's something I did not do before.
Yeah, very cool. Actually, how you've been able to design your life and kind of live your dream. I mean, you've come a long way since you started, and now you're working with amazing clients, like creative entrepreneurs. So you've been sharing like a lot of good stuff here, like actionable things. People can really go out there and take some action. So where can people find you online? Where should they go and connect with you?
Absolutely. If you want to find me, please go and visit jawilliamslaw.com. If you do that and you sign up for my email list, you will get the brand protection guide, which is a complete list of the top 10 things that I recommend that you do to protect your brand online and, just in the marketplace in general. And so a lot of the things that I've talked about here will be in that guide, but then there's also a lot of things that I didn't have the opportunity to talk about in that guide as well. So I really highly recommend that you sign up for the newsletter so that you can get that. And if you want to reach out to me just in general, then just send an email to info@jawilliamslaw, and someone on my team will get back to you.
Definitely. I will link up everything here in the show notes over at navid.me/32. Maybe you should give my listeners and audience a little challenge. Like, we have talked a lot of actionable things here they can do.
Yes.
So would you give them a challenge?
Yeah, sure. I would say that a challenge that I would say is, what is one thing that you're going to do to ensure the legal protection of your business this week? So that could be talking to a lawyer. That could be registering your trademark. That could be, going and just Googling some information, some more legal information. Could be signing up for the brand protection guide. Something that you can do to move your business forward in the direction of legal protection.
Definitely, that's spot on. And please leave a comment over at navid.me/32. I'm sure you will be able to jump in there as well, Jonay.
Yes, of course. I will definitely jump in, and if there's any additional questions or anything, I will definitely, be around, hanging out with you guys and trying to answer as much as I can.
Thanks so much, Jonay. It was a pleasure having you on my show.
Oh, it was great. Thank you so much, Navid.
Thanks.